Hello gang, and welcome back to Surviving the Long Dark. If you haven't seen it already, go ahead and check out my playstyle tuning video found in the card in the upper right hand corner, as this video builds on it in just about every way. If you've watched the other playstyle specific videos too, you'll find that this one also covers some of the same topics found there. Anyway, without further ado, let's get started. Either you're a masochist, a glutton for punishment, or just find the other stock difficulties too easy for you. Welcome to Interloper. There's a few things we need to get out of the way before continuing here. First, it's not recommended to try to learn how to play the Long Dark or brush up on game systems and mechanics by choosing this mode, though that is certainly possible. However, Interloper does take the experiences you find in Pilgrim through Stalker and significantly changes them throughout the entire stack, making simple plans and strategies that work well in the other modes useless, or at least not complete enough, to handle Survivor and Interloper's harsh conditions set. Let's examine exactly why this is and what you'll need to change in order to thrive. Firstly, let's discuss the weather. Interloper comes with a low starting world temperature that decays much faster than even Stalker's weather decay. The weather patterns that you find normal for each region will be drastically worse in Interloper. For example, the Muskeg is almost constant fog, and Pleasant Valley is plagued with blizzards almost daily. In order to succeed, you'll need to balance moving fast enough to just get the basics, as loot is spread hither and yon and in short supply, and moving slow enough to recover lost condition and prepare for the journey ahead by crafting, reading, or preparing. Because the weather is so variable, plans and strategies can go out the window quickly, putting off your plans for days or weeks at a time. Finding a groove to settle into is hard, as Interloper forces you to constantly be on your toes about the weather. Beyond the weather, you have the hostile wildlife. While nowhere near as aggressive and capable of sighting the player as they are in Stalker, wolves are far more deadly, with even a single encounter being fully capable of ending the run, just like that, even with fully upgraded gear. You'll need to have mastered wolf avoidance techniques. Wow, I can speak. Techniques! And when those have failed, master the necessary functions for maintaining control through a wolf encounter before it becomes a wolf attack. Brush up on baiting, climbing up difficult terrain, or facing the wolf head on with the bow drawn. You're also going to want to brush up on where wolves are likely to be and how to traverse those areas safely. After the weather and the wolves, you have the complete lack of loot. All high tier items no longer spawn, items that do spawn are often in poor condition, and there will never be a rifle, revolver, knife, or hatchet to be found in the wild. You'll need to make a forage run to craft tools, but we'll discuss that next. Because of the lack of loot, and especially the lack of matches, you're going to be at a heavy disadvantage as the game forces you to leave one place of shelter to trek out to another one just for a shot at some matches or water or one more article of clothing. You have to practice getting good at managing movement in the cold environment early on and trying to maximize the good days to lessen the impact on your condition. You'll need to get comfortable with burning through 20% condition a day or more for the first week, and managing downtime properly to heal up and avoid cabin fever after the grace period of 10 days. I talked about this in my making progress video, how you have to balance not moving too fast but also move fast enough to stay ahead of the curve. In Interloper, that's an incredibly fine line to find. Now if you've never really played the mode before, as the amount of variables that affect that are more numerous and more impactful compared to Stalker and the others. Anyway, because the loot is so minimal, you'll need to potentially traverse 2 to 3 regions just to collect the basic supplies needed to progress in your run. Alright, now it's time to discuss foraging. While foraging is possible in any of the other modes, it's not a necessity. However, if you want to crest 50 days in Interloper, be prepared to make foraging a priority. You'll need at least a knife to craft basic items like a new coat later on down the road, and to help you harvest animals and other items. You also want to make arrowheads for the bow, as this will be your only offensive weapon in the game. You can get a flare gun, but its ammo is incredibly limited and is of little use for hunting game to keep you fed. Planning a forage run is difficult, as you'll also need to collect a hammer to use at the forage, and there's only a few spawn points for it, at least as of the Steadfast Ranger update. Once you get the required materials, it's still not easy to balance a forage run, as you have to have the gear to make it just to one. And then you also have to have the fuel to fire it up and keep it hot long enough to craft the basics. You'll also need food and water to sustain you for that period, and if it's after day 10, you'll also need to consider cabin fever. If you spend a few days straight in the Reich and forging, you'll need to balance that with outside time to avoid cabin fever. And finally, let's discuss decay. Global decay rates are accelerated in Interloper, meaning if you want to get supplies, you'll have to move fast, as any gear left out in the open and not scrounged out of containers, sans those found at Timberwolf Mountain, they will be well worn by day 60, and probably downright toast by day 100. If your goal is longer runs, then this will need to also be a priority in the back of your mind. Because the resources available in Interloper are so scarce, losing out on potential gear just because it decayed is a sad day indeed. Not only is the gear decaying, but so also is the weather patterns and global temperature. This does reach a cap as of the current update, but again, it's harsh enough to be very noticeable, especially if you're behind the curve. So what's all this mean for you, either a first-time Interloper player, or someone who struggles with the mode but isn't necessarily new, or even you veterans out there? First, it is to maximize to the fullest every good, clear day. Because matches are rare, you'll want to rely on the mag lens as much as possible for fires, and fires are needed to keep you warm while you harvest animals. As you begin your run in the early days and are barely scraping by, consider stopping at advantageously located ravaged deer carcasses and just grabbing the hide. This will get you well advanced on making both boots and pants, even if it's just having the materials for them before you acquire the tools. You can also focus on stoning bunnies for food early on and stockpiling their pelts to prepare for hats and gloves. Make it a priority to clear out the first region you start in the first day or two at the latest, and catch a hammer as soon as physically possible. A forge run can be done anytime, but from my playthroughs, it fits best to try and smash it in before day 15. Use bait from your carcasses to attract wolves and kill them as soon as you get the bow to get their hides curing up so you can get a coat as soon as possible. If a Timberwolf Mountain run to get the loot is in your sights, try to hit it up before day 60, as the contents of its containers are predetermined ahead of time, unlike every other searchable container, and therefore the decay rates do affect the items held in them. Balancing all the time necessary to complete these objectives while also not shedding too much condition and holding on to enough resources to advance is a fine line to balance and a hard one to strike. It's imperative to work as hard as possible to min-max your resources to the utmost to prevent any undue delays in the early game that will set you back. While I can't suddenly impart the knowledge required to be successful in this mode or make it make sense, nor should you necessarily adopt my exact playstyle for approaching Interloper, I can give you all the items I've found to be of the most critical importance, so that you can have those at the forefront of your mind during your forays into the most difficult stock mode available in the Long Dark. It's not easy, but with time you'll find that it comes a little more natural and quickly to tuning your playstyle to fit the constraining requirements that Interloper imposes. I hope this guide has been of some value to you as you prepare your journeys ahead, and if you found it helpful, consider leaving a like or subscribing, or tell me in the comments below what future guides you'd like to see. As always, I've been Lonelywolf, and I hope you guys did enjoy. I'll catch you guys in the next ones. Stay safe, and stay warm out there.